Yes, yes. Welcome back to another edition of Go Long Live. I am your host, Barry Long II, not the first, not the third. We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today's California.com, live on today's Canada.com, live all over the universe, all over the metaverse, all over the Twitterverse. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, everybody for being a part of the show. Please go and like today's California on Facebook, or like today's Canada on Facebook, or like CoachellaValley.com on Facebook. Without any further ado, let me bring in my main man, Rudy Ramon Reyes. We were having some technical issues the last couple of days, but we are good to go. How you doing today, brother?
Hey man, I'm doing good. It's Free Flow Friday. Try to say that 10 times
Free
fast.
Flow Friday. I'm not even gonna try.
Just forget trying. Don't bother. I'm sure other people are out there saying, "Wait, Free Flow Friday? Yeah, I can't even
Free
do it.
Flow Friday. Free
I
Flow
can't
Friday.
even
Free
do
Flow
it.
Friday.
I,
Free
I,
Flow
I was like
Friday.
I'm like dropping whoosh bombs over here.
It's Fed Up Friday. We know that it's Fed Up Friday. I am fed up with a lot of things. One of them being my Wi-Fi. Just fed up with some of the stuff that I've been hearing this past week about all these coaching. All these coaches supposed to be throwing games. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We also have some pretty interesting news from Jim Harbaugh's camp. He will be staying at Michigan. He says that the Vikings interview will be his very last NFL interview. We had a crazy situation happen last night in college basketball. A fan was spat on by a UCLA freshman. His name is Mac Etienne. We will be talking about that and talking about some of these fan interactions that we've seen with professional athletes as well as college athletes. We're also going to be talking about some trade deadline. Trade deadline is a week away for the NBA. We had a trade from the Clippers and the Pacers. I'm sorry, the Blazers. We'll also be talking about, should the Lakers be making any moves for this trade deadline? Should the 76ers trade Ben Simmons? We're going to talk a little bit about the NFL Pro Bowl that will be happening this Sunday at noon. But before we get started, we got a comment already from Naomi Vec. She says hello. So hello, Naomi. We appreciate you for tuning in. So Rudy, without any further ado, let me just show you this video, man. This is a video clip of what we saw last night at UCLA. Now, UCLA lost to the University of Arizona in Arizona, so this is an away game. This guy is a redshirt freshman. Mac Etienne, he has not played. He's not playing this season. He has a knee injury, so he'll be back playing next year. But they had a loss. It was a tough loss. There was a little bit of animosity between the players. And as he's walking off the court, it is unknown what was said to him, but this is what he did. He is the guy in the white shirt. I'll show it again for those who missed it. He's the guy in the white shirt walking through the tunnel amongst the players. Twice in the direction of, it looks like a male, the guy in the gray shirt, who gets very upset. And so your thoughts on that terrible display of sportsmanship from Mac Etienne, and your thoughts on whether or not he was arrested. Okay, he was arrested for assault. Your thoughts on that?
When you look at a guy who's supposedly the bright spot for this UCLA team is now the dark cloud hanging over the UCLA men's basketball. I guarantee you John Wooden is turning in his grave right about now in regards to what he would have seen and possibly what he would have openly done, which I would have sent him packing. Forget the knee injury. That's a byproduct to his lack of sportsmanship, his lack of understanding that this is just not the forum you do that in, nor is any forum open to this type and display of lack of sportsmanship, attitude problems. I don't know what his situation is like, much less his personality within the locker room and the relationships within the UCLA men's basketball organization. I guarantee you, head coach needs to really kind of sink his teeth into the situation to find out whether or not this is a systemic problem from Mac Etienne's standpoint. This is not acceptable. We've seen this throughout the NFL. Kyrie Irving had a bottle thrown into him. Clearly, that should be a violation. Fans like that who almost antagonize these players. And look, if you're a professional athlete or if you're a collegiate athlete, you got to know when to say when to stop. Think twice before you act, because we are who we say we are. We are how we act on the court, on the gridiron, on the clay, right? at the 19th hole. We are that kind of guy, that kind of woman, that kind of individual. There's no room in sports for this type of behavior, attitude, demeanor, personality. And we don't even know what he had for lunch. So, for us to naturally assume that this is something that's going to be tolerated by not only the UCLA men's basketball organization, but the Pac-12 as a whole could get involved in this, and this could get escalated a lot faster. And of course, from Mac EDN's standpoint, it probably couldn't come any sooner to straighten out whatever issues he's having.
Yeah, William Senso, Bill Senso says, hi, Barry and Rudy. Naomi says, we spitting, and she seems pretty disgusted by that disgusting display from Mac ATN. And yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I believe that this guy, there should be some swift and some strict punishment handed down to Mac ATN. I know he's a freshman. I mean, right there in that picture, he looks like he looks a little crazy. I'm not gonna lie. It looks a little 5150. But the ultimate thing is that we don't know what was said to him. He was indeed punished because he was arrested by Arizona State or Arizona University of Arizona police. So he did get a punishment, and it is something that's probably going to stick with him for the rest of his life. It's going to be on his criminal record. Whether it's handled for him doing jail time or him doing probation, they're saying that he'll be able to handle all the legal proceedings without visiting Arizona again. But regardless of what was said to him, if you are a player, you have got to be able to control your emotions. You cannot reach out and hit a fan. You cannot reach out and spit on a fan. We saw Marcus Smart years ago when he played for Oklahoma State. He is going for a layup, and then he's at an away game. I believe it's Oklahoma. It's the rivalry game. And there's a gentleman who stands up and basically yells out some crazy words to him. We're not sure exactly what he said. After the game, Marcus Smart comes out and says that he was called the N-word, among other racial slurs. And he actually grabbed the man and almost hit the man. And we've seen players reach out and hit fans at professional games. We saw the Malice at the Palace. Even before that, we've seen other players in the NBA, get into fights with fans, physical fights with fans. But when it's a college guy, it's kind of a little bit different because you're still looking at them as like they're a college student. They're although they're adults and they can be charged as so. You look at them and you're like, man, this is a kid going against, either another kid or an adult fan. But it just feels a little different when it's college. But I believe that on both sides should be held accountable. When you had the guy throw the water bottle at Kyrie Irving, that water bottle was pretty much full, and that is a flying missile, as they say. It's a weapon. It's not dumping popcorn like what happened to Russell Westbrook. But it's something that could have actually injured the guy. So I believe that them arresting that guy who threw the water bottle was the right action. And I believe that this guy's spitting on someone, because if you get spat on at Walmart, that's assault or battery. So I believe that it was the right action, and I believe that it's going to set a precedence that we won't see this happen again.
Well, maybe not. I guess it depends on the player. It depends on his personality, his attitude, and how he approaches certain given situations. Don't forget, college doesn't necessarily teach you how to be a good person. It may teach you how to be an all-star. It may teach you how to be an all-American. It may teach you how to play track, a trumpet. It's going to teach you fundamental components you're going to need for the rest of your life. But what about that college life, right? These players are designed to understand that it's bigger than them. It's bigger than their name. It's bigger than their talent and ability on the court, on the gridiron, on the clay, or any other surface they're playing on. Let's recognize that these young men and women uphold certain fundamentals in regards to how they act, what their perception is, who perceives them in a certain light, who looks up to them, what is their status on the college campus. They have to recognize that this is not a good thing. And when your mama tells you, if you can't say nothing nice, say nothing at all, that kind of translates into just zip it, because we don't want your flarning spit at us at 100 miles an hour, regardless of what profanities are being spoken to. The whole two sticks or sticks may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. You have to recognize that those types of fundamental components are taught to you by a college professor. They're not taught to you by your PE teacher. They're not taught to you by anybody else other than your family. And it's your upbringing, it's your mentality, your personality. Look, I understand it's a hostile environment. Anywhere you play other than home, whether you're in the collegiate system, whether you're in the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, MLS, you're going to be in situations that you have to learn how to control yourself in. And of course, he may be nicknamed known as the spatter when this is all said and done, and never to come back in Arizona and spit again. Now, if this was Texas, I would probably think you'd never be able to spit on the Alamo. But
Yeah.
but again, this is Arizona, so this is again going back to the player. I understand as a fan, you're upset. Maybe they lost, maybe they won. But you, as a fan, have to recognize that you take sole responsibility for the actions that you exhibit on the court, on the gridiron, and therein like. So, again, there's the old adage of it takes two to tango, whatever euphemism you want to use is applicable. It's applicable now and it'll always be applicable. So,
Now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Is there any circumstance or any word that he could have been called in which his actions would have been justified? Let's say he was called a racial slur. Let's say he has long hair. Let's say they were referring to him as they referred to him as a member of the LGBTQ community and were like taunting him that way. Let's say that they were going and saying something about his mother. Is there any words or any circumstance which that would have been justified, him spitting on, or if there was something, or if he was spat on by the fan and we did not see that, were his actions justified?
no,
Not
you have to
whatsoever.
be bigger than the circumstance. You have to be bigger than the situation. You have to be bigger than what somebody is putting you in, what someone is telling you. And if you don't have the fortitude to not act out in an immature and very irresponsible manner, then your best bet is just walk off the court, walk off the field with your head between your legs, or whatever analogy you want to use, and just go off into the sunset. You're going to fight another day. You're going to play another day. Maybe not in his case. And of course, if this continues and he has outbursts just like this throughout his collegiate career, I can only imagine what kind of rap sheet he's going to have once he gets into the NBA.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you. Under no circumstances is this justified, and I understand that there have been players in the NBA that have referred to themselves as "we're not animals in a circus, so don't treat us like animals in a circus." If you come to the event, you want to come and you watch the event and you watch it. There are fans that are wilding out and going too far, and there are fans that have seen like this quarantine lockup period has really just messed them up in the head, and now they go out and act like they don't know how to act in public. But at the end of the day, yes, you are right. If you are an athlete, you are supposed to be able to restrain yourselves from going out into the stands and ever, because that's what it's all about. That fans come there, they pay their good money. I believe that, they should be able to heckle you up until a certain point, but I believe that is part of the game that you signed up for. Is I'm not going to reach out and say anything to any of these crazy fans. Now, we got some more comments from Naomi. She says, yes, always learn to control your emotions. It's called discipline. And we appreciate. Well said. Well said. Absolutely. Now, we had some news that came down from the NFL, and we talked about this yesterday. We talked about my man Jim Harbaugh. He came out and his camp basically said that after being after going to the Vikings interview, that this will be his very last interview that he does for in the NFL. Now, do you believe this man, or do you think that he's just pulling our leg? You think that if the Cowboys come calling next year after they fire Mike McCarthy, do you believe that that Jim Harbaugh would take that interview? Because he's saying that this is his last interview. He is happy at Michigan, and that's where he'll be until the end of his career. Do you believe him at
No,
all?
I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all, because look, the bottom line is that I understand that collegiate salaries are at an all-time high, and I get it.
Yes, they are.
He's won Coach of the Year, and there's a certain amount of money that will always draw someone to the next level. He's been there, done that. He understands the dynamics. He understands the playing field literally and figuratively. So for me to really believe that Harbaugh doesn't want to take another shot in the NFL when he had to get permission from two different sources, from albeit Minnesota, and the athletic director at Michigan, doesn't really sit well with me at all. I just think it's a bunch of hot air, just as it was coming out of the camp stating that, he could very well have this Minnesota head coach job locked up when in fact there was almost no interest whatsoever. Because again, as a coach, he wanted control over drafting. He wanted control over different facets within the organization, which Minnesota is clearly not going to do. And I think that could very well have been the parting ways in the last statement before they sent Jim Harbaugh packing back to Michigan.
Yeah, and I think that him wanting all the control that you just suggested over all the draft picks and everything like this, I think that is the wrong mentality that a lot of these college coaches that transition to the NFL fail to realize that this is a multi-billion-dollar business that you're jumping into. And I understand that college football is also bringing in lots of revenue, but you, as the head football coach of a college football team, you're supposed to have all this control. You're supposed to know all their personnel. You're supposed to know their record, their school. You're supposed to follow their grades. You're supposed to know what's going on in their personal lives. You're supposed to know about their girlfriend relationships. You're supposed to control every aspect of these guys' lives. But when you're dealing with NFL players, you're dealing with guys that are grown-ass men. Sorry, we are live on CoachellaValley.com. But you're dealing with grown men, and you're not dealing with children. And these guys make more money than you a lot of times. And you're not able to control all your draft picks. You have a general manager for all that. You've got guys that are in position to handle a lot of other aspects. And when you look at a guy like Urban Meyer, who failed miserably going to Jacksonville after transitioning from the college game, he kind of didn't realize that these are grown men. It's the way that he was talking to some of these players. Just his mentality was still in college. And I feel like guys like Nick Saban, who failed when he went to Miami, the same kind of way. And there are certain guys that are just meant for the college game, certain guys that are just meant for the NFL game. And it's very rare that you run into a Pete Carroll or
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. It's very different. You have to understand the player mentality, the player attitude, the player demeanor. And if you're going to put all that time and effort and energy into getting these guys to buy into your system, you really have to buy into their system, their way of life, their personality, their attitude, their demeanor, the types of things that make up who they really are. And at the end of the day, it's really about the coaches. It's about how they really can translate that small get to know session into a possible relationship with some of these guys to help them move at the rate they would like to move once they head into the NFL and deeper in the NFL. And as their career goes on, you want to make sure that the actual coach is the one who has absolutely everything to do with coaching them up, getting them back to par, and recognizing at the end of the day that these guys are people too. They may have learned bad habits while in college, and they may have developed some good ones once they get into the NFL. But when you talk about coaching up and getting guys in the right position, I don't know that Jim Harbaugh is there mentally when it comes to the NFL players versus what he has to contend with on the collegiate level. So that really remains to be seen.
Yeah, and he had some success in San Francisco. So I mean, we would be remiss to just dismiss his success that he had in San Francisco in the pro game. But I feel like he was set up for success because people forget that defense was one of the best defenses that was out at the time. I mean, they had Navarro Bowman, you had Patrick Willis. I mean, you had a killer defensive line, and you had some pretty good weapons on the offensive side of the ball too, as well as a good O line. So he was already set up for success there. Him building a team from the ground up, or coming to a team that has not had success before he gets there, I feel like it can be a little bit of a gamble. So I like him in Michigan. I think it took him a while to finally get established and finally figure out, what kind of style of play that he should have for his team. Get the right personnel in there. Continue to recruit heavily, and finally get that monkey off his back by beating Ohio State. So I feel like this year was a great step in the right direction for him to be the head coach of Michigan for a very long time to come. Now we are live
absolutely.
We are live on CoachellaValley.com, live on today'scalifornia.com, live on today'scanada.com. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. Although we are having a little bit of technical difficulties, we will get them ironed out by next week. Next week, we will be at the Super Bowl. We'll be live from Radio Row. We will be interviewing as many celebrities, current players, former players as we can. And we're excited to be invited out there. Now, we got the Pro Bowl coming up this Sunday. 12 Eastern, or I'm sorry, 12 Pacific time. And a lot of people, watch the Pro Bowl. The casual fans a lot of times do not watch the Pro Bowl because there's no tackling. There's very little tackling that's involved in the Pro Bowl. Maybe the first quarter you see guys get tackled, but after that, it's pretty much two-hand touch. And a lot of people
just to put some flags on their hips.
Yeah,
That's what turn into flag football real quick.
They literally should just wear flags at the Pro Bowl. And a lot of times when you look at the NBA All-Star game, which will be coming up in this month, and we'll be talking about that more in the weeks to come. But when you talk about the NBA All-Star game, there's a lot of just no defense whatsoever played in that game, and there's a lot of alley-oops, and there's a lot of free open lanes that guys can just run through and just dunk, and it's not a lot of competition. Major League Baseball,
a lot of threes too.
A lot of threes, 4-pointers as we call them. But in the Major League Baseball, it seems to be one of the only sports, and NHL seems to be one of the only sports where the All-Star game is competitive. Which All-Star game do you think is the best in professional sports? Is it the Pro Bowl?
I would like to think that it is a Pro Bowl because that gives everybody a last-ditch effort to get in a little fandom as their voted on players get a chance to play on the field. But to be quite honest with you, I think more coveted than the NFL, and I know this is like a black eye to a lot of people, but it's got to be Major League Baseball as far as an All-Star game is concerned. I like it because you have different flares, you have different types of competitions, different levels of competition. You have the home run derby. You have a lot of things leading up to it. Who doesn't want to see somebody, swack a 350-foot ball out of the park and just do it bat after bat after bat after bat? Whereas you have a vanilla, AFC, NFC Pro Bowl. You have a vanilla preseason in the NFL. Everything's vanilla. And I don't like it. I don't like the vanilla aspect of it. But an All-Star game is supposed to be fun and exciting and invigorating and getting people, to really kind of tune in and enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. The Pro Bowl is just very vanilla because of the non-tackling that happens. And there's different challenges like the quarterback challenge and all these other things that they do that is really not publicized. It's really not put on television, much like the NBA does. The NBA does a great job of having an All-Star week, I believe, All-Star weekend, because you have the 3-point challenge, you got the slam dunk contest, even the skills challenge has been exciting to me, and seeing like
pretty cool,
So I feel like they have the weekend one as far as when it comes to the All-Star festivities, but when you get down to the actual game, I mean, the All-Star game last year was like 198 to 180 something. It was just ridiculous. I mean, and these are some of the best defenders. Not only
defense.
These are some of the best offensive players and defensive players in the NBA, and nobody's playing defense. And I get it.
You gotta have defense, man. You gotta have D. I mean, there's no way around it. I understand it's one game a year where you get to frolic in the fans and the environment and the ambiance, that all these All-Star games are. But at the end of the day, people still want to see a competitive game, and the Pro Bowl is not it. NBA All-Star game's not it. NHL All-Star game tends to be pretty cool if you're into hockey, if you're into that kind of thing. I like hockey personally. These guys you're talking about speed kills, and we're talking stick handling, puck handling, hand-eye to puck situation. I mean, you have tons of teams right now. They're just playing fantastic hockey, including the Pittsburgh Penguins out of all teams. Go figure.
You're a Pittsburgh guy, aren't you, man?
Yeah. No, I have my teams. But the Penguins are playing really, really well right now in the NHL. And then more importantly, it's really about just watching a game that's competitive. And I think baseball gives you more of a competitive edge, even in an All-Star week versus the NBA or the NFL.
Absolutely. And, and when you talk about baseball, the home run derby, that has always been one of the greatest things in professional sports. But I think specifically it being the All-Star game that Major League Baseball has done and the incentives that they've added as far as whoever wins the game gets home field advantage in the World Series. It makes it so much more of a competitive game. And you get guys that are really, really trying to be the MLB All-Star Game MVP. And it's actually a coveted thing. I feel like the MVP for the Pro Bowl is not as a coveted thing as being the All-Star MVP for the baseball game, as well as NBA. The NBA
Right.
MVP, like last year, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think he shot like 16 for 16, made multiple threes. I mean, he was 100% from the field. He was MVP, and it just wasn't talked about as much as it would have been talked about if it would have been Major League Baseball. So yeah, I feel like if the NFL wants to make the Pro Bowl a little bit more exciting, then put something up, for grabs. Put something on it instead of just a Pro Bowl check that they get. The winners get a bigger check than the losers. I feel like the money that they make right there is just chump change. And if they really wanted to make people watch the entire game, then they would be able to do something more. But we are live on CoachellaValley.com, today's California.com, today's Canada.com. He is Rudy Ramon Reyes. I am Barry Long II. And we've got the trade deadline coming up next week. And we saw a trade today from the Clippers and the Blazers. Now, the Clippers acquired Norman Powell and Robert Covington from the Blazers for Justice Winslow, Eric Bledsoe, and Keon Johnson, and a future pick. The future pick is going to be in 2025. Now, when I saw this trade, I was like, okay, they had it. The Blazers, they need to make some moves. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do as far as this Norman Powell big contract that they had on the books. Robert Covington is kind of a movable piece that just kind of gets added to the situation. But they really like the emergence of Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons is a young guy that didn't get a lot of playing time the last couple of seasons, but now he has emerged and he'll be up for a contract extension next year. So it was time to get Norman Powell off the books. And this doesn't really make the Blazers better. It just allows Anthony Simons to feel more comfortable, and it allows him to really shine a little bit more. But this really does kind of help the Clippers with bringing in Norman Powell and Robert Covington. You've got two guys that are injured in their stars, in Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, who is going to have an MRI done next day or so. But we'll know more about that situation after the MRI. But this makes the Clippers a little bit better and makes the Blazers not so much. What are your thoughts on this trade?
Unfortunately, you're talking about the Lakers and what do they do? I don't think there's a whole lot they can do, to be quite honest with you. They do have a couple of pieces. I mean, you get rid of THT. What do you do with Bradley? You have the Supermax deal, which you shouldn't have had with AD, but hindsight being 2020, it is what it is. Clippers just added another component to their arsenal. I mean, you can move Powell to like this 5-ball, situation. At times, Powell will be a part of that. Maybe even Covington, depends on the placement of the center, who's going to be the center essentially. But don't forget, they brought in Bledsoe in a 4-player trade, which ultimately signed Winslow on a 2-year, $8 million contract. So teams are still paying for this guy. And you haven't really seen a whole lot for it. Johnson was drafted by the Clippers, $8 million as well in the 2021 NBA draft. But don't forget, Bledsoe still has one more year on his $70 million deal he signed about 3 years ago. So it really makes you wonder, are the Clippers any better for it? Are they going to get anything from it? What's the return on investment? What does that actually look like? And a bigger question for the Clippers are, do they get healthy? When do they get healthy? Are they ever going to be completely healthy? That remains to be seen. But there's one thing that they have that Lakers don't, and they're playing 500 ball. That doesn't speak to credit of the Clippers in adding this guy. When you add Powell and Covington, you said Bledsoe, Winslow, Keon Johnson, and a future draft pick, doesn't really do anything for me. It's not an exciting trade. You're getting guys at par at best inside the paint, maybe some perimeter play, but that allows for others to grow, younger players to grow. And since your draft picks kind of, he's going to be out for the remainder of the season, just kind of makes you wonder, where does this team actually go from here? And that's kind of where the Clippers are right now. Lakers don't have a whole lot of room for anything right about now. It's just a question as to whether or not they want to depart from two main players on that current roster. But when you look at Covington, he's done some pretty decent things. He's hardly missed any game time. He's shooting 11.6 points per game. He has just under 2 assists per game, 40 from 3. I mean, it's almost It's almost getting something for nothing, really,
Yeah.
when you think about it. It's just another guy to put in the rotation, to be quite honest with you.
Absolutely, and his minutes are down because he was getting more minutes when he was with the team like Philadelphia, and he was a main piece, a main component of that equation. But when you yeah, you're absolutely right. When you look at the standings for the Western Conference, of course the Suns are up there at top. 41-10. My goodness. The Suns are an exciting team to watch. They're exciting bunch of players. I really like what Chris Paul has done, as far as bringing leadership and bringing a winning mentality to that team. But the Warriors are one of your teams that are going to be a sleeper in this championship run, I believe. And I know that Klay Thompson, he's just now starting to play well, just now starting to get his legs underneath him. Steph Curry has not really looked like Steph Curry all season long. We've seen that Steph Curry has had some games where his shooting was just terrible. I mean, his shooting looked like tour dates, like 1/25, 2/27. Like it looked like he was going on tour somewhere. But at the end of the day, he's going to come out of the stump. He is Steph freaking Curry. And once they get to gel and they have those pieces like Kaminga and Jordan Poole, these young guys that have gotten a lot of burn, a lot of playing time in the midst of the absence of Klay Thompson and his injuries. I feel like this team is going to be one of the most dangerous teams. But when you look down, you continue to look down, you see the Lakers are in the 9 seed and the Clippers are in the 8 seed. And it's just sad for Los Angeles basketball in general. Just because Los Angeles basketball, we're expecting those two teams to be up at the top when you have a LeBron James on one roster, you have a Kawhi Leonard and a Paul George on the other roster. But, just driving around town and wearing my Lakers gear around and just talking to all the Lakers fans, there's a lot of frustration within the Laker Nation about Anthony Davis. And I know you've expressed your frustration with Anthony Davis and his lack of production and his lack of just being able to be healthy and be out there on the court. We haven't gotten to see what the full Lakers healthy unit would look like. We've seen LeBron James been injured at times. Anthony Davis seems to be injured all the time. Russell Westbrook just playing, terribly out of his mind. So what do you think that the Lakers should do as far as making a deal at the trade deadline? Because we haven't really heard much about any deals that are out there for Russell Westbrook or Anthony Davis. But, most of the people that I talk to, they want to trade Anthony Davis. What say you, Rudy Reyes?
Anthony Davis frustrates me to no possible end. And I hate to say this, but AD is soft. He's soft like butter. He's soft like margarine. He's soft like the butter you put in your movie theater size popcorn. Okay,
soft as a cookie.
That's how soft he is. Okay, twice cooked for that cookie, by the way. But to be honest, the only thing they can do right now is look at Taylor Horton Tucker, THT, and think to yourself, is this a TNT move for THT? I think so. When you throw in a guy, and I know it sounds crazy, it may be outside of the realm of reality, but Austin Reeves could also be a part of that trade as well. He's an up-and-comer, still some time out for him to develop, but you need guys, and you need them now. You need ones that are not hurt. Carmelo Anthony dealing with a leg issue. Whether or not he comes back, is he going to be day by day? More than likely. But they have to do something. I mean, what do you do with LeBron James? LeBron James has signed a huge deal, but does he decide to retire after the season? You have to look at that as well. He doesn't necessarily need the money. He doesn't need the chips. I mean, who is he chasing? Michael Jordan? Is he chasing Kobe Bryant? I mean, who is LeBron chasing right now? And to be honest, I was listening to an interview with the great Jim Brown, running back for the Cleveland Browns, and of course we know where this is going. But before the late Steve Sable passed on from this planet, we know that Jim Brown, as good as he was, knew when to call it a day. He knew when to say when. And if a guy like that, who never missed a down, who played his entire career with one team, with all the accolades and championship pedigree that he has associated with him, my advice to LeBron James is call it a day. It is what it is. You're going out on top, retire and be done with it. Why? Because draft capital for this age double ARP lineup for the Lakers needs to change and needs to evolve. And right now, that's probably your best possible bet for future tense. Right now, again, they're playing just barely below 500. I expected this team to do a lot more than that, but when that roster was set forth, when you had Carmelo, and you had Westbrook and AD and LeBron James, and you had, I was thinking to
Dwight
myself, man,
Howard.
this is you have D Howard. I mean, you have a laundry list of guys who are checking into retirement homes within the next 5 to 7 years. So it just kind of made me wonder, thinking, well, is this going to be good for LA, bad for LA, good for the Lakers, good for fans? Do they want to see a bunch of guys walking around in walkers on a hardwood court trying to defend the 3-point shot when they're going to get there at a snail's pace? Probably not. This is not the ideal way to go if you're the Lakers. So I really think they're going to have to do something more and a lot sooner before it becomes later, and you're going to wish you had done something versus nothing.
Yeah, when this roster was assembled, I was like, man, this is going to be a lot of back injuries, a lot of hip injuries, just old guys. I mean, look at those. Look at the
hip.
look at the big four. Okay, imagine if this was 10 years ago or 8 years ago. Oh my goodness. I mean, this would be an unstoppable unit. It wouldn't matter who you added onto that team to be the fifth option. I mean, this team would have been so loaded. It would have been the roster is the way it's currently assembled. I'm just like, yeah, man. I knew that it would.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a lot
Mainly
to
in
do about
defense and in
nothing.
transition, because we know that this team is old and they don't move up and down the court as fast as most younger teams. So I knew that defensively they were going to struggle. Did we have some technical issues? We're back.
Yeah, no, I
Okay.
mean, when you look at the trading pieces, trading components that are realistic in regards to what the Lakers can do versus what they're not willing to do, you cut your ties with DeAndre Jordan for one. Get rid of Wayne Ellington. It's not as if DeAndre Jordan's been bad, because he hasn't. He's been relatively consistent. The problem is that you need a guy in the center position that can come out and dynamically just put it down. And DeAndre Jordan's been good, but I just don't think he's quite that guy. I know you're looking at that, but he's just not your guy. And then you look at Ellington, who hasn't been bad either as part of the lineup, whether he's starting or coming off the bench. But you got to look at guys like Malik Monk, Kendrick Nunn, Westbrook, maybe even Bradley. You're going to have to go small with small ball, big with big ball. And right now they're lucky if they can find the ball, because at .472 for winning percentage, not exactly what I'd call productive.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that all the trade pieces that are out there, a lot of times I've seen, Kent Bazemore's name been mentioned. Kent Bazemore is a piece that you could get rid of. I do like that. I understand that THT is a big, big piece that a lot of teams would want, and he would be a big bargaining chip as far as a trade is concerned. But I feel like as a diehard Laker and watch this kid's development in the last couple of years, I feel like he should be, I feel like he should be on the untouchable list. And I understand that the championship window is closing for the Lakers, but THT is a piece that I'd be unwilling to give up just because of the potential and the future that this guy could have in this league. So, and you mentioned earlier that LeBron James should retire, and as much as I understand that LeBron is getting up there in age, and the injuries are starting to compile up for him, because his first 15 years in the league, 16 years in the league, we didn't hear one injury. It seemed like this guy was indestructible. And then, he gets injured in the bubble, gets injured the next year. And these little knick-knack injuries are not compiling up much like they are for Anthony Davis. But LeBron James is getting older, and he's not getting any younger. And I do understand that Bronny James, his son, is going to be in the NBA in the next couple of years, and he definitely wants to play with Bronny James. I'm not sure if it'll be in a Lakers jersey, but it would be incredible to have the first father-son duo playing the NBA at the same time on the same team. But you're right, man.
Father
LeBron
time
James
is not working. Father time is against them in every sense
Bronny better
of
hurry.
the word. Bronny better hurry up and grow, because
he can use some help from the
his dad's not
NCAA.
getting any younger. He's not getting any younger.
He could use some
Yeah,
help
he
from the
needs
NBA.
some help.
If,
Yeah, he
if they
does. He does.
if they change that rule from the one and done to you don't have to go to college, then Bronny would just be able to go straight to the NBA, and it
They'll
would
end up
happen a year
pulling a
sooner.
Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion. I'm just saying.
All
You
right, now
never
let's
know. I'm not speaking that into existence. I'm just saying that that's very
yeah
possible. But right now, what the Lakers really need is youth. They need the fountain of youth. They need a youthful movement, youthful mentality, but more importantly, they need youthful bodies. And if the Lakers can acquire that, albeit in this, week to trade deadline, they can certainly do that with the right guys with the system. So I certainly think they could be on their way to doing something uh, versus nothing. Because right now they don't really have anything to speak of playing less than desirable ball, whether
yeah
it be, giving the ball to Russell Westbrook the last possible minute or giving the ball to somebody else who doesn't deserve to have it in order to make that game-winning shot. So the good thing is that Carmelo Anthony, as old as he is, he did it in the Knicks uniform. He could probably do it again in the Lakers uniform. That remains to be seen. I've yet to see him put the kind of numbers up that he did when he was with the New York Knickerbockers,
if
who
we
are
stay
also facing serious issues right about now with their
yeah
own organization. When you have guys like Randall asking for a trade, and then you have Ben Simmons and that train wreck. And speaking of Fed Up Friday, I want to say this for the record. There's a scrub on Twitter who is an apologist for Ben Simmons. That's right. Hashtag Fed Up Friday. Anybody who's fed up with that,
he's a
chime in.
he's an apologist for Ben Simmons.
Give
Let's
us
talk about
give
Ben
us your
Simmons.
own Fed Up Friday.
Let's
What
talk
are
about
you
Simmons.
fed up with?
Let
Okay.
me I'm fed up. I am fed up with the Lakers defensive performance, and I get it. They're old and they're not running as fast, but the defense has dropped off drastically, and that's what Frank Vogel was known for. Is his top ranked defenses in the NBA, and this team. I'm fed up with the athleticism and the lack of defensive production on the Lakers, but I'm also fed up with this Ben Simmons conundrum that's going on. Ben Simmons has not played all season long. We have heard from the 76ers front office that he is now up to $19 million in fines. So he and his agent Rich Paul are trying to fight against that. They have litigation that is in place for them to recoup that money, that $19 million that he has basically forfeited with these fines and him not playing and his mental health not being right for him to play. But Ben Simmons is a guy that you would think that he would have already been traded by now, or they would have already brought him back to the team. And it seems like his days in Philadelphia are officially over. And we knew that. We kind of felt that way when we saw him walk off the court against Atlanta in the playoffs. We're like, okay, Ben Simmons is done with this town. But Daryl Morey has not been willing to deal him yet. And it's because he wants to get back what he claims is another NBA, all NBA type player. So he's not looking for, a couple of good role players. He wants to get compensated for what he believes Ben Simmons is worth. And Ben Simmons, whether or not you believe that he is, a terrible offensive player, one thing that we cannot deny is that Ben Simmons is an amazing, is an all NBA type defender. And it takes a lot of work to be a top defender. So he may not work on his game offensively. He may not work on his shooting or his free throw shooting. But one thing he does work on is his defense. Now, I believe that the 76ers should deal him as soon as possible because they are right there close to the top of the East. They have an opportunity to they're only a game and a half away from the Bulls, being the top seed. You got Joel Embiid playing at an all-time level. This team has been playing well despite not having Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons, I feel like it is time for them to let him go, and they need to do it sooner than later. What say you?
Well, when I look at James Harden, who's thinking about being dealt as well, the Nets are certainly having that conversation. I say do it now. Do it now before the trade deadline. Do it now because you need a guy who can shoot from three. He knows about defense. James Harden, all-time one of the better defenders in the current NBA landscape. And of course, Steve Nash, new head coach, first year head coach of the Nets. And I think to myself, man, there's got to be something. We're speaking of soft. I think anybody who's softer than AD has got to be Ben Simmons. Shaquille O'Neal went on record stating that he needs to grow up, and he does need to grow up. And this scrub and hashtag Fed Up Friday. talking about how he's not an apologist and Ben Simmons shouldn't have to conform to what the team's needs are and their desires and what they should be doing in not trading him, and they should bow down to whatever commands. Man, get the flock out of here. Hashtag Fed Up Friday.
I thought we were about to risk it all, Rudy.
Get out of here. Hey, no risk it, no biscuit. Especially when you don't have any gravy on it. So this is a great situation for James Harden, and I really think that this is something that he could easily do. I think it's doable. I think Brooklyn can certainly be the winners in this situation, because it could be a place where he can play. The problem with
you're saying James Harden. You saying James Harden goes to the 76ers?
Absolutely. But the only reason why I have a problem with that is because now you're sticking Ben Simmons in an Eastern Conference foe. If you want to get rid of him, you send him to a Western Conference foe. Yeah. You don't deal him out in the East. Yeah. It's like sending, somebody that you have a freeway series with, the AL, NL, knowing you're going to face with, let's just say the Dodgers and the Angels. They have a freeway series every single year. Hopefully this lockout will cease. Of course, the MLB PAA is declined to use any type of
federal mediator
mitigation in regards to someone from a federal level getting involved in this contest. But I really think that this could be great for Simmons. It could get him back into a basketball mentality, a defensive mentality, wanting to play for a different team in a different system. Why would you not want to play for Steve Nash? The guy's a proven winner. He did it in Phoenix. He did it with the Lakers. And he's done it everywhere that he's been. And he's always been priming himself for a coach since maybe the second year to the last where he retired. So I think this is good for Simmons. I think it's great for Harden, because Harden will be a part of a system where he'll get to play with Kyrie Irving, even though he's still a part-time player. He'll have a chance to play with some of the better players within that system. I say do it now.
And I agree with the trade. You got to get Ben Simmons out of there. I think James Harden for Ben Simmons. I mean, obviously you're going to have to add some more pieces along with Ben Simmons. James Harden is, in my opinion, he's going to be worth more than what Ben Simmons will bring to the table. But I feel like, I mean, if you put a guy like James Harden along with a guy like Joel Embiid, who's been reliable the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been as injury prone as he was early on in his career. And he's just continued to improve. When Joel Embiid first came into this league, there were reports. I mean, people watching him warm up before games. He's eating cheeseburgers from McDonald's right before the game while he's stretching. He just didn't take it as seriously as he should have, as his talent would suggest that he would take it as serious. And it was just disappointing to watch him throw so much potential away. And I feel like a lot of those playoff series, particularly the one with Kawhi Leonard and the Toronto Raptors, really kind of broke his spirit and really kind of made him decide, I'm going to be the best player, the best Joel Embiid that I can be. And we've seen him play at an MVP high level the last 2 seasons, and he needs some help. And Ben Simmons just has never been that guy. As much as Ben Simmons has the potential to be a better player, I know his athleticism, lends itself to him being a better offensive player. I mean, he doesn't always have to take jump shots. He can get out in transition. He's one of the best distributors of the basketball from an assist standpoint that we've seen in certain seasons.
Put him inside the paint. Let him be the dominant guy inside the paint. See what he can do once he's there. He has a big body. Let him position himself to make something happen. Maybe a layup. Maybe if you post him up, maybe you can get something in there. Run a triangle. There are lots of options when it comes to Ben Simmons. When you look at James Harden on the opposite end of the spectrum, he's a proven scorer. 37 the other night against the Kings, 37 against the Suns, 38 against the Lakers, Timberwolves, 38. This guy's a consistent scorer. That is what you want, especially with Kyrie Irving being the part-time waiter at Starbucks. You want this guy to be that guy. I think James Harden certainly does. As a matter of fact, when I interviewed James Harden a few years ago, I asked him when he was with the Houston Rockets, I said, so what do you guys really need right now? Oh, we don't need nothing. Well, I don't see him winning an NBA. I don't see him winning an Larry O'Brien trophy anytime soon. So, clearly there were some pieces missing out of the Houston Rockets team that would ultimately have maybe helped them get further into the Western Conference Finals. But at the end of the day, James Harden is a proven scorer. He's great in transition. He knows how to post up for three. I mean, the guy has been there, done that. Why not send him to a team that can utilize his services and trade for a guy in Simmons who can be that post up, be that big body inside of the paint and dominate like Joel Embiid does. And I think that's why Ben Simmons is acting up like a 4-year-old, is because Joel Embiid is playing the role that Simmons otherwise would have been playing had he have not gotten soft like a stick of butter.
Absolutely. And you know what? Another thing about Ben Simmons and his just mental psyche, and the reports of him, not being mentally ready to play, I really do agree with them, because I see him as being, a guy that's mild-mannered, a guy that's away from his hometown. He doesn't really have his family out here. He's from Australia. I mean, imagine going to a different place, eating different food. Imagine being in that market, listening to that sports radio market.
Get out of here
guys
with that.
calling for
Get out of here with that. Come on, man.
Guys calling for his job.
Harden
guys,
up. Get it?
He's got
up.
He's got to harden
up.
He does got to harden up. He seems like a soft guy to me.
He's too soft. He was coddled in college. He was coddled in his first year in the NBA. He was coddled to a point where you want to just wrap him in a blanket and, send him to the next orphanage. Okay. That's the situation surrounding what's been done for him. I don't want to hear his woes me business. I mean, you can easily swap out this $41.25 million contract that Harden is making and actually get some production out of that contract versus fining Ben Simmons all this money that you're basically just pocketing as if it was some type of chump change. So when you look at what you're getting from James Harden, you're going to continue getting from James Harden because you're not getting it from Ben Simmons.
Now, let me ask you this.
You got to call a spade a spade.
Does Ben Simmons work with Kevin Durant?
No, but he should. He should. If he doesn't work with Kevin Durant, he should. He should very well do it. He should learn a thing or two from Kevin Durant, one of the all-time greats. Are you joking?
Yeah. I think those two guys defensively, because what Kevin Durant can do defensively is incredible. I understand he's getting a little older, but he is still good defensively. I think with him and with Ben Simmons and Ben Simmons' ability to eat up minutes, I feel like that would be a really good 1-2 punch. And if they got Kyrie Irving back, Kyrie Irving is a guy that can play the 1 spot or the 2 spot. So I feel like this would be a really good trade. Ben Simmons going to the Nets, James Harden getting away from, because James Harden is a workhorse right now. And I feel like he is overworked, just like he was in Houston when, Kevin Durant's out. You got Kyrie playing once every couple nights. I feel like, James Harden is going to be consistently there and able to play when he's healthy. And he's, I feel like he's a workhorse, and I feel like he needs some more help. And he is never going to win a championship in Brooklyn, not with the way that the team is currently constructed.
No, not at all. If there's one thing I had to say to Kyrie Irving, can I get 2 shots, please?
And then he's not talking about the bartender.
No, I'm talking about the Starbucks barista.
Oh yeah, no. He needs to get 2. He needs to get 3 shots. He needs to get boosted as well. These are the Eastern Conference standings right now. You got the Bulls up the top. You got the Heat. The Heat have been playing really good basketball right now. I'm impressed with the Heat. I am really, really impressed with what I've seen from the Cleveland Cavaliers. You got Jared Allen. You got Evan Mobley. You got some good pieces there. And the Cleveland Cavaliers being 32-21, I really like what JB Bickerstaff has done with that rotation. You've got the Nets and the Bucks who remain 2 of the most dangerous teams that are down in the standings right now. But when it's all said and done and we make it to the playoff contention time, I feel like these 2 teams will rise to the top as long as they are healthy. But the Bulls have been everybody's Cinderella story all season long. The acquisitions that they made in the offseason, of course, they went out and got Alex Caruso, DeMar DeRozan. They've had Vucevic. They have had Levine for the last couple of seasons. He's been playing like out of his mind. They've just got a lot of good pieces in the Bulls organization right now, and they're playing at an all-time high. And Chicago is buzzing right now. Do you feel like Chicago has a chance to win it all?
Well, you know what? I'll be a son of a bitch because Vucevic has been really playing sound basketball, probably some of the better basketball I've seen from him in quite some time. You look at the rest of the Eastern Conference, The Heat, the jury's still out of them. Can they stay consistent? Can they stay healthy, right? We talked about this before. The best ability is what? Availability.
Availability.
And right now, the Heat certainly have those guys available to them. You can't knock the 76ers, despite having this turmoil that they're faced with a soft and margarine kind of guy. Needs to get put back into the fridge. But, at the end of the day, it's really
Isn't it a
about
shame? He's
what
not
you
even
do down the
playing.
street. It is. It is. I wonder if his mental health would go with Antonio Brown's mental wealth. I think
Oh,
those two may
ooh.
have. Maybe we ought to give AB Ben Simmons' phone number. Heaven forbid that would ever
Yeah.
happen. But at the end of the day, when you look at the Bulls, the Heat, 76ers, I think the top five here between the Cavaliers and the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks certainly are always they're going to be in contention. There's no doubt about it. Look, this is regular season stuff here. Okay, we've seen teams turn it on and come out of absolutely nowhere. We look at the Suns in the Western Conference having that very top seed of 41-10. And very similar to what we have in an Eastern Conference at 33-19 for the Bulls. I think the Western Conference is stronger. I think their strength of schedule is even stronger than the Eastern Conference. Not to take anything away from what these guys are doing right now, because I certainly am not. But when you look at the strength of schedule between the Eastern Conference and Western Conference and those games that they're playing right now, Western Conference has by far the toughest part of that schedule. And we'll see what happens at the All-Star break, because it's going to be the determining factor as to, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, maybe Ben Simmons will find his way over to the Nets, and James Harden would come to the 76ers to play for Doc Rivers. We'll see.
Okay, so let's give me an early bold prediction of who you have in the NBA Finals right now, based off the Western Conference Finals, or based off the Western Conference standings, and based off the Eastern Conference standings. Who do you like? Just a quick guess of who you like
I
to go.
I think the Warriors. I think the Warriors, and between what Klay Thompson's putting together, he's getting his feet under him. He's trying to find his length from three. I think Steph Curry starts cooking as you're looking into the rest of the remainder of the regular season after the All-Star break. And I think more importantly, it's about staying consistent. If anybody knows anything about that, it's Steve Kerr, who's been there, done that with a very similar roster as he's looking at right about now, with a few pieces here and there that he didn't have the year prior. Of course, they didn't have Klay Thompson, which could ultimately make up for three of those guys, and even three of those guys are not the equivalent to Klay Thompson.
Yeah,
To be honest with
he's
you,
special. He's special.
yeah, he's a special guy. He's came back from a double MCL, ACL. Certainly
Torn
fought his
Achilles, or
way.
just everything. Oh.
He is back. He's large and he's in charge as far as the Western Conference is concerned. I'm going to pick the Warriors. And then at the end of the day, I still don't think you can count the Milwaukee Bucks, despite their
I
positioning
knew you were gonna
right now
go
in the
there.
regular season, because they have Antetokounmpo, which certainly
What?
begs Antetokounmpo. So let's say it 3 times, 4 times,
Giannis
5 times.
Antetokounmpo.
Antetokounmpo. So, and I'm not even from Zimbabwe, but when you look at his game and the consistency that he has been a part of in this franchise, certainly on their way through. Cavaliers also in that top five, certainly playing at a very high level, higher than I thought they would be at this point in the season, to be quite honest with you. So I'm going to take the Milwaukee Bucks against the Golden State Warriors in my finals pick,
Yeah,
and Golden State to win.
yeah. I like Golden State
I
to
know
win
I'm
it
going
all as
far. I'm
well.
going far, but still, you got
Yeah.
to go a
I
little
think Golden
far,
State.
man.
Yeah, I think Golden State is just playing at a high level right now. Even with the struggles that Steph Curry's had, they still find ways to win. And they found all these random pieces like Kuminga and Jordan Poole, and they've given these guys, a lot of playing time, during these injuries. And I feel like these guys are really ready to step up. When you look at the emergence of a guy like Andrew Wiggins, who Andrew Wiggins has, was supposed to be the star, the superstar right out of the gate, and he had some growing pains early on in his career, but I feel like he is playing at a high level right now too. So, yeah, they got it clicking on all cylinders, and I like what they're doing. And out of the East, as much as I do like Milwaukee to be in contention at the end, I feel like Kevin Durant is not going to let them lose. I feel like he's going to be healthy, and I feel like Sean Marks is going to make the right move at the right time. They're going to make some moves. They're going to figure it out. And I feel like the Nets will be there. It's either the Nets or the Bucks. And I'm all my Bulls fans. I am sorry. The Bulls are great. They're legit, but we just got to see it in the playoffs. Real quick, let's jump into the meme of the day. We got a big week headed up next week. We're excited to be going out to the Super Bowl. We will be keeping y'all posted, letting you guys know everything about that. But this is the meme of the day. Whenever you feel useless, remember that Ben Simmons wears a shooting sleeve. he doesn't need a shooting sleeve. He really doesn't. He really doesn't.
It goes with the outfit. I think that's what it is. It's showing his soft side.
Man, he is soft as a cupcake. Hey, Rudy, let them know where they can find you at, boss.
You can find me at Reyes on Twitter. You can go to therudogshow.com. All content, everything that we have going on here and at the Super Bowl will be on therudogshow.com. So stay tuned for that. I'm a tweetaholic, so I do like to tweet. You'll see a lot of content coming your way as well. Maybe even a couple-minute interviews. I guess you'll have to wait and see. Of course, if anybody doesn't know and you've been under a rock, Super Bowl is happening next weekend at SoFi Stadium between the Cincinnati Bengals with Barry and his shimmy with his Seth or a Steph Curry shimmy
Absolutely.
going on there against the
not LA Rams.
LA Rams. The Rams are not at home. They'll be wearing their away white jerseys, and Cincinnati will be wearing their black jerseys. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. Yours truly will be there as well, covering a lot of the great stuff that's going on at the Super Bowl. And you never know, a surprise interview can just come down our path. So
absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to be out there for the Tigers versus the Bighorn Sheep.
It's going to be bad.
I like that. Y'all can find me on Twitter at Radio Barry Long or find me on IG at BarryLong_2. Remember, stay focused, stay motivated, stay inspired. And remember, you're capable of doing anything, so go out and do it. We will see you guys on Monday live from Radio Row. Peace.